Hi, it's Kathianne Lewis, and it's time for a faith lift. And I want to raise us up in consciousness where we are talking about debt and financial freedom. Now, I must admit there was a time in my life when financial freedom allowed me to have debt. Do you know that I am so old, and I'm not that old, that there was a time I could not get credit on my own. I had to have my stepfather sign for me if I wanted a credit card, or apply for a loan to go to school, or to buy a car. Later, yes, I could have credit, and it was doled out in tiny amounts. So credit was actually a privilege. Credit was freedom for me, because sometimes I didn't have the money to buy new tires or have my car fixed or buy new clothes. But credit, I think, got wrapped up in the illusion of financial freedom. It got wrapped up in the illusion of prosperity. And I'm bringing this up because I put out a prayer request on my Facebook page that we would increase the debt ceiling for the United States. And I did that because I knew who would be damaged if we didn't. It's the people that were dependent upon Social Security and disability payments and people with small business loans. Geez, it's like the little guy was going to take it if we didn't do something. And so I'm grateful that in the short term, the debt ceiling was raised. And in the long term, I would really love our country to have a balanced budget. And by that I'm saying that we don't spend more than we take in. But that's going to change. That's going to take a huge change in consciousness. And we're the ones that can begin that process by changing our consciousness. Just like I had to change my consciousness. I was so happy at one time that so many companies, so many banks had faith in me and gave me a credit card. And I was so pleased that I had all these credit cards and had all that credit / debt. I was really proud of myself. I'm not so proud of myself anymore because I woke up to see how much I was paying in interest for things that I didn't even remember that I'd bought. So it took about 3 times. 3 times I got out of debt, and the third time took. And Tim and I have not had debt for at least 20 years. But it took effort. And so the only way to begin is not to, it's like a diet. I'm not asking you to diet. Diets don't work. Have you noticed? Not really. Now, changing consciousness that changes our eating habits, now that works. And so I'm not asking you to not spend any money. I'm not asking you to whittle down to nothing. But I am asking you to join me and whoever else wants to participate in seeing ourselves as satisfied and fulfilled at the level of prosperity that we have at this moment. Because that will create a consciousness of enough. And out of the consciousness of enough, we will attract to us enough to live the kind of life that we want to live. And we won't have to charge it. We won't get ahead of ourselves. We won't be paying off last year's good times. This really is a shift in consciousness. And I know that I can't do just one faith lift and have that work for you. But I'd like you to start to think about it. Because if we think about it, and think about it, and think about it, and think about it, we will begin to believe it's possible. But we have to believe it's possible long enough to have an expectation that we will live in that kind of reality. And as we start to shift, we become the ground of consciousness for our country to shift. Because it's very difficult for the country to not have debt when so many of the individuals within it have debt. I mean, there's a whole industry depending upon us having debt. But we are not the effect of that. We can be a representation of God's goodness and sufficiency and thriving life. I realize that I need to do more on this, and I'm putting together a workbook and a workshop, probably 6 weeks, called Money Mastery. And it will really be about us mastering our relationship with money instead of money mastering us. So stay tuned. It'll probably happen in September. But until then, imagine yourself, this is your spiritual practice for the week. Imagine yourself having enough in this moment that there's no need to charge. Now, that may not be a reality. You may need to. But the more you imagine it, the more it becomes true. It's been said that seeing is believing, but that's not true. Believing is seeing. Bye for now.
Jehovah Jireh, my provider, you are more than enough for me. Jehovah Rapha, you're my healer. In this love I have been set free. Jehovah Shammah, you are with me, and you supply all of my needs. You are more than enough, more than enough. You are more than enough. you